So the only thing about something like this is somebody might say, yeah, but what about inflation? Because the dollar is being printed off every day, and in 45 years' time, $700,000 isn't going to buy you as much stuff as $700,000 today. Does that make sense? So $700,000 in 2022 is going to buy you a lot more stuff than 2067. I mean, for example, you know, you could probably get 2 houses for that in 2022, but by 2067, you might only get a trailer. Make sense? Because the dollar decreases in value, right? So how do we adjust for inflation? How do we take that into consideration? So what we're going to do is we're going to roughly adjust for inflation, okay? And inflation goes up and down, and it's different every year. But what we do know is that pretty much for the last 100 years, the average overall inflation rate, and right now this is the year 2022, we've got historically high inflation rate, things like 6 and 7%. But average inflation over the last 100 years has been around 3%, okay? And so just to estimate, and you don't know how, it's impossible to adjust for inflation actually, because you don't know what it's going to be in the future, right? But we're going to estimate, and the way we're going to estimate, we're just going to go 10%, subtract 3%, and we'll get 7%, right? So instead of saying our money's going to grow at 10%, we're going to say, okay, what if our money just grows at 7%? And again, it's for 45 years. We already figured out it's for 45 years, right? So it's 10%, it's 100,000 at 10% compound interest for 45 years at 7%, okay? Oh, sorry, 45 years, 45 years, sorry, just write this out, 10,000, and it's going to be invested sorry, I'm confused now. So it's just this. It's for 45 years. We're going to take 10,000 and invest that at 7% compound interest. Okay, so let's see what you'll get this way. So take 10,000, invest it for 45 years at 7%, and what do you get? Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So again, it's the compound interest formula. You take your money, multiply it by 1 plus the interest rate, and then to the power of how many compoundings? 45 years. So in a calculator, 10,000 star 1. You can just add these 1.07. to the power of 45 will give you that. Make sense? All right, so let's see what we get for that. Good. We got 210. I'm going to put a comma there, 024.52, the nearest cent. And it asks us to round to the nearest 100,000, right? Yeah. So round to the nearest $100,000. So it's actually 210,024. So round that to the nearest 100,000, what do we get? Yep, $200,000, like that, right? Which is interesting. So. Are you okay with that? So that's interesting because when we had 10%, it was 700,000. We got all excited. Now, it's only 2, right? But hey, it's still 200. That's not bad. I mean, again, if you've got $10,000 right now that you don't need and you stick it in a Roth IRA and forget about it, then in many years' time, that'll be great, right? The trick is, how can you meet your needs and then have money on top of that to forget about? That's the hard part. But anyway, but yeah, but that's the difference. Look at what inflation does. Instead of 700, you got 200, right? So yeah, instead, because 700, it sounds like, ooh, I could buy 2 houses. 200,000 is more like, maybe a really small house, or a single wide, or half a house. You know what I mean? Something like that. Okay, good deal. Good deal.